Good morning, 5th grade. Today we're going to continue reading in our novel, The Birch Bark House. Before we get started, we have a fill-in-the-blank summary of Chapter 5. All right. The cold arrives and preparations for winter intensify. There are hides to be tanned, food to be stored, and moccasins sewn. The last journey of the trappers before the hard freeze will take Day-Day away once again, and Dag becomes a constant companion to Amachius. One day, Amachius and Angeline listen and hide as Day-Day visits with two friends. With Day-Day are Albert Lepatre and Fishtail. The men smoke tobacco, tease Albert about another of his strange dreams, and then fall into serious conversation. Concerns are growing about the increasing presence of white men in the area and their impact on the village and life of the Ojibwa. Moving west to the land of the spirits is becoming a real possibility. Fishtail exclaims, "Not until they have it all of our land. Our wild rice beds, hunting grounds, fishing streams, gardens. Not even when they are gone and they have the bones of our loved ones will they be satisfied." Day-Day compares their greed to that of children. Lively conversation ends with a long and ominous silence. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the focus question. The focus question for today is, how does the author develop Pinch's point of view? How is his point of view different from the other characters? All right, and our vocabulary words for today are betrayed, and that's when you expose someone to danger by giving information to the enemy. So this person is being betrayed, they're being stabbed in the back. The next one is ashamed. That's when you are embarrassed or feel guilty. And then we have greed. That's when you have this intense, selfish desire for something, whether it's wealth, power, or food. Go ahead and turn the page, and we're on page 82 in our text. And this chapter is all about Pinch. So we're going to learn more about him and what kind of person he is and what motivates him. We're at the top of page 82. Big Pinch got in trouble, and Amachius was glad. Here's how it happened. One day, Mama found a bush of late-bearing chokecherries. They were plump and so ripe, and they had turned a deep blackish purple color. She picked until her fingers turned red-black at the tips. When she returned bearing her load of berries, Mama's eyes lit on Big Pinch. "I have a job for you," she said. Her eyes got beady and his lips turned out. He pouted at her, but she paid his lower looks no mind. "I'm spreading these berries on the bark sheaves so they will dry," she went on. Then she proceeded to spread out the berries on clean birch bark in the warmest part of the sun she could find. "You watch them carefully now, Big Pinch. Keep the birds away. Listen, my son." Mama narrowed her eyes at Pinch so he would know he was trusted with an important task. "This is our winter seasoning and food. You'll be glad when you are hungry in the little spirit moon." She gave Big Pinch a long, ferny branch to wave and made him sit next to the berries. Then she turned her back on him and went out to the lake with Grandma to check their fish nets. She took Niwu along with her, put him carefully in his Tikinagan, petted and kissed him. Angeline and Amachius were sent to town. They were to sweep out and prepare the family's cabin for the winter move. Big Pinch was left alone. All right, and then we're going to keep reading to figure out more information about Big Pinch. We know that he is left alone. It was hard being Big Pinch, harder than his sisters would ever know. They didn't understand how good it felt to fill a stomach that was so rarely full. They didn't realize how good it felt to shove handfuls of berries into his greedy mouth. Pinch looked at the berries. Bored, he shooed away a few small chickadees. Andeg sat with him on a low branch, but Andeg knew better than to eat the berries. If only, thought Pinch sadly, those berries didn't look so delicious. Mama had found a patch of choke cherries, and that were much more luscious than most. These were the biggest, fattest berries Pinch had ever seen. It didn't seem as though it would hurt to eat a few. Pinch sneaked one, and then a few more, then a handful. Andeg cawed 3 times and seemed to disapprove. Pinch made a face at the bird. The berries tasted so good, and they looked better, richer, blacker, without that mouth-puckering choke cherry taste. He might have just another handful. Well, he thought not long after he finished that bunch, a handful more would not hurt. And then, just to balance the look of the berries, he took more from the other side. The other. He spread the berries out, and then the bark looked full again. Pinch waited. The sun blossomed slowly, so slowly, and it took such a long time to dry the berries. Pinch tried to amuse himself, but with nobody there to bother, he was at a loss. Andeg didn't want to play and flew out of reach. There was nobody to annoy except himself. Another handful, another and another. Pinch rearranged the berries once again. Now there seemed to be plenty of berries on the bark. They were well spread, it was true, but the bark sheaves looked full. He kept nibbling, spacing, arranging, and rearranging, until sleep overcame him and he curled up tight and nodded away. We'll stop right there because we have information about the character and setting. In box 1A, we would write, Pinch gave in to its temptation to eat the berries because they looked so good. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And we would write down this quote on page 84. It says, it didn't seem as though it would hurt to eat a few. Pinch sneaked one, then a few more, then a handful. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the setting. And we'll find the setting on page 83. In box 2A, we will write, Pinch is left alone to watch the berries that his mother picked and wanted to save for winter. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. You would write down this quote on page 83. Big Pinch was left alone. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. We're in the middle of page 85. Pinch! It was Mama's threatening voice. She was standing tall over the berries, and she wasn't the least bit fooled by Pinch's berry arrangement. What happened? Where are the berries I picked, you sleepy boy? Pinch woke, jumped up, rubbing his eyes, blinking. It was true. There were very few berries on the bark sheaves. Had he eaten so many? How could he? Big Pinch was horrified, embarrassed at himself. Pinch! Mama was using her very angry voice now, and Pinch felt so terrible that his brain raced, and he suddenly seized upon a blaming lie. Andeg ate them. Bad Andeg! Pinch pointed up, and sure enough, Andeg, sitting out of reach on a high branch, certainly looked guilty as he glared down and preened his new growth of feathers. Mama, furious that her work was all for nothing, shook her fist in the air and called out to Andeg, Come on down and eat the rest of them. Andeg, not understanding, hopped down to nearly within her reach and cocked his head in a friendly way as though to inquire, Are you sure? Ah! Mama took Andeg's friendliness as a sign that he really had eaten up the berries. Mama grabbed a stick, shook it hard. Andeg croaked in alarm. With a shout, she threw back her arm, took sudden aim at the bird, and hurled a stick at Andeg. Caw! Andeg was hit. Although not seriously hurt, he jumped fearfully from branch to branch and fluttered out of reach, then farther and farther away until he was lost from view. See what you made me do, Mama called, but immediately she sat down, sorry, knowing that the fault lay strictly with herself. I must get the better of myself. I must. She shook her head. How could I? Now her daughter's pet was frightened, and even if he had eaten all the berries she worked so hard to pick, Mama loved the crow and never meant to scare him. How betrayed by humans the bird must feel, she thought guiltily, and here she had trained him to eat from her hand. Now he was frightened off. Come back, she called hopefully into the woods. Ombe! We'll stop right there because we have information about our problems. In box 3A, we would write down the first problem. When Mama discovers that a lot of berries are missing, Pinch lies and tells her that Andeg ate them because he does not want to get in trouble. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the second problem. We'll find the second problem on page 87. We would write, Mama throws a stick and yells at Andeg. When Andeg flies away, she feels guilty for losing her temper. Press pause to write down your quote and play when you're ready to keep reading. We're in the middle of page 87. But the bird, still crying out in confusion, only fled deeper into the woods. Mama sat down sadly, ashamed of herself. That was how Amachius found her mother when she returned from her town errand. Mama told what had happened. How Andeg had eaten the berries Pinch was watching, and how she gotten angry, frightened Andeg off, and now she was sorry to have done so, and would help Amachius find the bird. Surely he will come to you, said Mama. Just as she was explaining why she had lost her temper and how hard she had worked to find those berries, Pinch groaned. What's wrong? Mama asked. Oh, Big Pinch lay down, holding his stomach. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. Sa! Mom bent over the boy, inspecting him. A stomachache, eh? She was immediately suspicious. Gently but firmly, she took his hand in hers, uncurled them, saw the telltale juice marks of bruised chokecherries that darkened his fingertips. Then the pitiful berry-stained smile that sealed his guilt. Pinch, she said, and this time her voice was worse than angry. It was disappointed. You lied. The ghost foot carries away liars in the night. And as for your stomach ache, there's no medicine but enduring the consequences of your greed. You'll have to suffer, Pinch. Maybe this will teach you. With that, she and Amachius left him to Angeline and went off into the woods seeking Andeg. We'll stop right there because we have information about the solutions. In box 4A, we know the solution to Pinch lying is that he gets a stomach ache. In box 4A, you would write, Pinch gets a stomach ache from eating all of the berries, and his mother tells him he must live with the consequences. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the second quote. And the solution for Mama getting mad at Andeg, in 4B, you would write, Mama and Amachius go into the woods and look for Andeg. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. It says, so you could keep reading. Amachius and Mama go into the woods, and Amachius sees the bears again, and she talks to them. And her mother realizes that she has this special relationship with the bears, and eventually Andeg comes back. All right. In paragraph 4, it says, what challenge does Pinch face, and what does his response reveal about him as a person? So think about how he ate the berries, and then he lied about it, and what that tells you about him.